Bong. There we go. That was weird. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. This is Thorn with the Game Design Lexicon. I must have hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. And let me, so we were talking about being, anti-capitalist, and there was something I wanted to say about, so I'm really starting to dislike the entire, like, left-wing and right-wing dichotomy that we've built up, from the, you know, French Revolution on. I don't really think it applies anymore. Not to mention, it's just too reductive. It's too broad sweeping now, because, I mean, like me, you could honestly say that I'm left-wing, right? But honestly, when it comes to some things, I'm very, I support a lot of the stuff that you normally, or I'm left-wing, but I support some of the things that you can find on the right, you know? Like I'm more of a, like I believe in, well, I'm anti-authoritarian, right? So I don't really think that there should be a lot of restriction on gun ownership, stuff like that. That just goes with being anti-authoritarian, right? And while I do believe that there are problems with it, I don't believe that taking the guns out of the populace is how you would solve it, or not strictly so, right? While it may solve one problem, it could create another. So, anyway, one of the things that you know, I want to stress with that is that I'm progressive. I tend to have more of a progressive outlook. I look at the system that we have. I look at the systems that have been overthrown, and how they worked and how they were eventually subverted. And I instinctively know that the system that we have is due to be replaced, because somebody who's not as progressive as I am would look at it and say, well, no, you know, we can keep the system. We can just like change a few things around and maybe put in some safeguards to protect us from this and that and this. But I'll be completely honest. Our current governmental turn here in the United States has basically just shown me that the problems inherent in the system will keep happening until you change the system. There's no way around it. And it's not like I'm like a brainiac or anything and I know what system we should move to. I have no fucking idea. There's people in this world much smarter than me who can answer that question much better. Like I said, I tend to be Marxist in those discussions, but when it comes down to it, I'm going to have to quote Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. If there's a new way, I'll be the first in line, but it better work this time. And I'm certainly not a fan of authoritarian communism, which has been pretty much almost every form of communism that's been practiced on Earth up until now, right? So when you say, oh, communism is bad, well, no, authoritarianism is bad, right? The two-party system is by design. It's not really a two-party system. It's just evolved that way to pretty much utilize that system against each other. I mean, it's not only is it kind of rigged in a way, but it's also made to support the same people, right? So I don't really even think the United States has a two-party system. I think they're pretty much both in cahoots with the same oligarchy, the rich oligarchy that we've had since the country has been founded. There might have been tweaks and twists and turns in the political system, but I think that since its beginning, it's been mainly tailored to support the rich. Yeah, no, yeah. And And of course, our country has done a damn good job of stamping out any type of successful or effective pro-worker movement pretty much since right after World War II. They've voraciously demonized any type of pro-worker movements since that little slip that we had right after the Depression, and we voted in all those socialist policies, and the capitalist class went, oh, wait, oh, you're taking our power away, you're taking our profits away. And ever since then, any type of pro-socialist movement has been demonized. So, you know, when I say that I'm a communist or when I say that I'm an anarchist, I mean, people look at me cockeyed and everything. They don't realize that, I mean, it's a legitimate view on politics, that there actually is a legitimacy to it as much as there is to, you know, authoritarian capitalism. Straight up, you know. Okay. And, you know, I believe in a lot of principles that, that, you know, the right spouts. You know, I believe in a minimalist government. I believe in a government that should have very few things. It should have proportional checks and balances. That is to say that it should never allow any type of amassing of power in the hands of a few, ever. And I also believe that the government should shrink and expand as needed. That it shouldn't. That's obviously one of the deficiencies of capitalism. Is capitalism, a capitalist government works the same way capitalists do, in that you scrounge all the money you can, you never give it back once you get it. I mean, income tax was supposed to be temporary during World War II, right? Have you ever heard of the toll booth conundrum? So say a state or a county or a city builds a toll road, right? The idea is that they open those toll roads and they put tolls on them, and the toll intention is for the toll to subvert the cost of the road, right? It's supposed to pay for the road, and then once it's paid for the road, then the toll booths are supposed to go away. But of course, that never happens. That never happens. It literally never happens. Don't know why Comcast is calling me. Anyway, and the reason why is because a capitalist government works like a capitalist society, and that once it obtains the funds, it never gives them back. It paused my cozy jazz. And it bloats. It bloats. And they need to figure out how to stop that from happening. They need to make sure that it shrinks accordingly, and that it can never pool power into the hands of any class of people. Okay, what was I doing here? In? Yeah, let's not bother distributing yet. That's still a pain in the ass. So let's, did he level? I'm sitting here yakking my trap, and I didn't even notice if my wonderfully named sudden death leveled. Yes, he is now 5th level, which is awesome. That gives him 89 hit points. That's not bad. Okay. Yeah, and I don't know. It's kind of really weird, since I was born like at the ass end of the whole civil rights movement. I could tell you one thing. I mean, during the whole Cold War in the 80s, the last thing that I thought that I would be doing in like the later years of my life is fighting off fascism. I didn't think that would be a thing. Okay. Let's head over here. Okay. Oh yeah, more stuff to map. There we go. Let's continue to map off the stuff that we haven't mapped while we get sudden death up to level. And then once we get them up to level, we'll go to the netherworld and go through that, was it like a, oh, an imp hatchery, I think is what it was. Also, thanks for showing up to the stream, Retro Brew. I sure appreciate it. Even though I can't talk, I guess the coffee's tongue-tied me. Retro Homebrew, because it has an H. Ugh. I've had to resort to bottled water because our ice machine's still on the fritz. That's a wonderful term. On the fritz? That's a World War I term there. Basically insinuating that if it's German, it's failing. Wonderful. Gotta love terms like that. Probably shouldn't use it. Yeah, one of the things that kills me about a lot of people's misconceptions about my political view is the fact that they think that, you know, because I'm like a Marxist, I want to take away property from people, which is untrue. And I think, who was it that said it best? Probably Hassan, one of the guys that I follow, obviously, said, that, you know, the difference between capitalism and Marxism or socialism or communism even is that it's literally more democratic of a process, you know. Here in a capitalist society, being that the capitalists hold the power, businesses aren't democratic. They're a tyranny, a tyranny of your boss, right? The big difference is in a socialist society or a Marxist society, each business is also a democracy. So democracy actually pours down from just governmental, or from not just being a governmental thing to actually being a capital thing. So you know, the means of production is distributed amongst the people who provide the labor for it, right? And they have a say in the way it's run and the way they're treated. And what does that do? Well, it prevents, it does a few things, right? First off, it prevents the accumulation of capital into the hands of the few. Second, it prevents exploitation. And it prevents, well, I guess saying it prevents exploitation is another part of the main thing that it prevents. Is it prevents a conflict of interest. It prevents what Marx called a conflict, in that capitalism has an inherent conflict against the capitalist class and the worker class. You know, one has in their interest to pay their workers as little as possible, while it's in a worker's interest to give as little labor to their boss as possible for as much money as they can, right? So the idea of, you know, dialectic materialism is removing those conflicts. You want to examine those conflicts and figure out a way to remove them. Hey, nah, don't be draining my magic. Or stunning my guys, Jesus. So, I mean, when you really think about it, socialism or Marxism is just an expansion of democracy, or an expansion or a retraction of oppressiveness, really. The Salty Tavern, great. Was it 53? I always forget. I'm gonna take... monster surprising me? What are they doing? Yeah, it's funny that we live in a world that, or we live in a country that espouses like freedom and democracy when it basically still allows the tyranny of an employer to employee relationship. And you can see that in pretty much all sorts of facets of our society, like mandated vehicular insurance, and from a privatized source, mandated medical insurance from a privatized source. What's another good one? They're just it's everywhere. It's everywhere. You can see the idea that you can't be medically covered unless you're employed, the idea that you aren't a benefit to society unless you're employable. I mean, these are all horrible, horrible concepts, because every member of society is valuable, whether they're employable or not. They should be allowed to find a place, and obviously, if you're denying somebody like that a place in society, well, I mean, you're essentially practicing eugenics, really. And yeah, it's definitely not your right to remove somebody's usefulness just because you don't think they have a place in society. Like, who the hell decides that? And on top of that, one of the things that you have to remember is that if you are benefiting from a community, if you're benefiting from a society, then you are in obligation to support that community regardless of its positions. So you can't complain about people being lazy. You can't complain about stuff like that. You need to help find solutions or help pay for solutions to support a society that you benefit from. Just straight up. To imagine the pain and horror we have inflicted upon the world in the name of democracy. And that's even worse too, because that's just all colonialism. The fact that we feel like we're better than other people because we've literally deprived those people of their wealth to make our situation better is horrific. Is absolutely horrific. Okay, so I'm going to have to swim to find out if there's anything up in that corner. It's going to piss me off. Okay. And I guess we'll hit that N after we're done here. Get some of these spell points back. Yeah, and that's the worst part too, is the fact that, I was pretty much raised, with the whole, our country is protecting and spreading democracy, which has to be one of the biggest lies our country has ever told. That we're literally only spreading our own ability to exploit other people to make our own position more comfortable. And that involves specifically subverting democracy in other parts of the world to do it. Which, again, is absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. And everything that we do in the name of the country Everything that you let your government do in the name of the country is something you're letting your government do in your name. So if you support it, if you vocally support what your government's doing, you're vocally supporting that, which is why I vocally denounce it. I think I live in a great country. I think I live in an imperfect country that's populated by imperfect people who need to strive to do better. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh dude, fucking Chiquita Banana death squads. Those were the first. Or no. The first were Standard Oil death squads, right? And then Chiquita Banana death squads. Except back then it was called what was the fruit company called? Was it United Fruit? Yeah, United Fruit. So Standard Oil death squads first. And that was like Peru, right? Peru did the whole was it the Pinochet thing? And Bolivia was Standard Oil. And then a lot of the other South American countries via the whole United Fruit debacle. And of course the fact that they now have to change their name so they're not associated with the absolute horror show that they committed on the people of South and Central America. Yeah, dude, everybody does it. Didn't Procter and Gamble not Procter and Gamble. It was one of the cigarette people that just did it. Rebranded their name so they're no longer associated with the absolute horror show that they've been for the history of this country. So fucking disingenuous. But you know, that's what we've taught our citizens. Though we taught our citizens that you know, these rich people's ability to exploit other countries and deny us our wages is freedom. It's their freedom to, as a lot of people are displaying today, freedom to them means that they should have the freedom to be able to treat other people poorly to get what they want or need. Well, it is. I mean, when you look at the way the system of capitalism works, it's just as much of a debt cult as Christian nationalism is, right? Because any first-year economics student knows that infinite growth is not possible. And that we can see in the waxing and waning of our financial stability over the years that it's always going to fail eventually. And the worst part is you know, these people have made it to where the people who suffer the worst are the people who are on the bottom end of society, right? They're insulated from the trouble they cause. Doesn't matter if the housing market collapses, they've diversified. Doesn't matter if people can't afford eggs, you know, they can have them shipped in specially for them. Wow, these guys are rough. Yeah. That was actually the horror show of the whole Fallout premise, is that you don't realize that the whole idea of Fallout was the fact that the rich were basically leaving the poor out in the radioactive wastelands. That the vaults were for rich people and rich people only. And yeah, again, we were talking about media literacy, man. Try convincing anybody on the right-hand side that the entire Fallout series is a direct critique of capitalism, because it is through and through. Every bit of it. Okay. We took a little bit of a beating then, didn't we? How's our health? Should we go back? Yeah, let's go back and rest that in. We're still here, so. And we just need the experience anyway, so we might as well. Okay, back to the Salty Tavern. Maybe we can get a few levels on to Sudden Death, and then we can go to that Imp Hatchery and do that. I'm pretty sure that's the next dungeon we need to do, rather than the one that we've been doing down here, which is that one dude's, the Sage's Hut, or whatever it is. Critique of communism. What? How? Dude, I don't even know that much about Squid Games, and I know that that's not the case. I mean, wasn't it just kind of like an expansion of that second episode of Black Mirror? Secret contest where 456 players, all of whom are deep financial. Yeah, it's the same fucking plot as Hunger Games, which is a critique of capitalism. Ugh. People are so fucking stupid, dude. Yeah, I mean, how is that a critique of communism? Yeah, there's no debt in a communist society. How is that a critique of communism? Dude, I am so not surprised by that. But again, it goes back to what I was saying before. People will interpret things with their own spin, based on their own biases and positions in life, takes on the world. And that's probably one of my biggest things, like when I encounter people who have a lot of those weird takes, the weird like right-wing takes, is the fact that the first thing I do is I ask them what they know about what they're talking about. Like, I had somebody, so I recently had a friend that I had to kind of distance myself from because he had that right-wing thing going, right? And basically, he was trying to tell me that the United States wasn't a democracy, that it's a republic. I don't know if you've ever heard that argument. It's like the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. But it's like, dude, are you telling me we don't vote here? I mean, that's a democracy, right? We're a democratic republic. And I gave him a few other examples. One being the Democratic Republic of North Korea, right? And he's like, well, that's not a democracy either. I'm like, no, it is a fucking democracy. Why don't you think it's a democracy? He's like, because it's run by a dictator. I'm like, just because it's a corrupt democracy, like our democracy is a corrupt democracy, doesn't mean it's not a democracy. And republics can be democracies. What are you, stupid? Dude, some people are just like... I find it amazing how well people can twist reality to meet their worldview. And that is a break. This is Thorn with Game Design Lexicon. We are sitting here talking about media literacy and the right while we play some Phantasie II, an appropriate name for a video game considering our topic, fantasy that is. I'm going to take a mental gym. Yeah, the mental gymnastics, dude, and the denial of reality are just and the fact that, you know, how effective United States propaganda has been on the people who are just willing to buy it hook, line, and sinker. You know, the idea that, you know, as some people have said, that our current president can pretty much say anything, and there's going to be about 20% of the population who will believe him no matter what, despite the fact that, you know, unbiased sources have confirmed that the dude lies every time he opens his mouth. So anyway, I'm going to take a short break. And I will be back after this.